I'm having to do this as a bit of a drive-by, but this is the site of Mountfield Halt Station. A little two-platform wooden halt. There's a bit of it still extant there by the looks of it. It closed in 1969. Well, I'm sorry I wasn't able to stay very long at the site of Mountfield Halt, but there's nothing there to see now. And I actually come into Mountfield itself. Another one of those places you didn't know. It's just stuck off the side of what was the old A21 main road from Hastings to London, now the A2 100. And it's a quiet little place. Nothing much here. I don't think there's a pub. If there was, I don't know where it was, but there were one or two interesting things to see. We're going to have a look at the parish church in a minute, but here again is one of these village signs. This one put up in 2002. I've mentioned these village signs before, that this was around about the Queen's, well, it would have been the 50th, the Jubilee, and so many of these signs were erected at that time to bring back the tradition of the old village signpost. And I guess maybe there might have been a post office on the corner there. I don't know, but very often the presence of a telephone box would indicate that there was a post office nearby. Mind you, it certainly looks a bit empty. Go take a look, shall we? I mean, that's the point of a walkumentary, isn't it? You have a walk round and you see what's there. Look at this. A nice blossom coming up there. Could be some nice blackberries later. Sadly, you can no longer make a call from here. Just listening to the bird song. Look at that lovely tree there. You know, I know it's boring to some people, but sometimes it's just nice to stand and listen. I mean, it's now 25 past 6 in the morning. The sun's coming up behind me. It's quiet. People are still asleep in their beds. Old-fashioned white weatherboarding little cottage there. And traditional signposting. Now, how more rural can you get than that? Lovely, isn't it? Well, I'm now at the parish church of All Saints Mountfield, which is got an inscription in the gate. It's remembering Jim and Doris Mayers, who loved and served this church. What a lovely way to remember somebody. Let's go in. And it's guarded by these two trees here, which is a rather nice touch. And a row of gravestones, very neatly arranged along the outer edge, so probably not original graves. They've probably been moved to make way for this open space over the years. Now this is a lovely little church, and it actually dates mostly back to the 12th century. So there might be some Norman style arches, etc. Again, it's set, although we've got trees all round now, it's set in a hillside. And then I walk round the side of the church, and the sun again is behind me. We're getting a lovely view. Again, these very nice, neat graves, and I don't know whether it was a fashion at the time, but they're in this open book style and the flat stone style. 1981, so they're fairly recent. (2000), 2007. This is rather interesting little touch. This little side door here. I can hear a car behind me. I don't know whether the vicar's turning up to do anything, but you see what I mean about the view from here. Isn't it lovely? And there's an obelisk over there that I'll go and have a look at in a minute. But I love this. This is real old stuff, this. Real old stuff. You know what I mean. I don't know whether it is open for us to go in and have a look. I very much doubt it, to be honest. No, it isn't. But that's a shame. But isn't it nice to be standing? You're standing underneath history, and the only thing that really spoils it are these carvings in the wood. That, unfortunately, is graffiti. But look at the age of this wood here. That really is something else, isn't it? I don't know what this is over here. Probably going to get wet feet. I'm not going to go any further. I've only got my sandals on. But let's take a look. There's obviously some kind of memorial. But I'm sorry, the grass is so wet, and I've only got my sandals on and my feet are wet already, so I won't go any further down there. It's 6:30 in the morning. Oh, look at this. Look at that. That's a tree that could tell a few stories, isn't it? All these trees around here have got stories to tell. And I'm down here now, looking up at the clock, 6:30 in the morning. And there's the tower. How lovely. I'm actually going to come out the other end of the churchyard. Of course, there's another beautiful piece of woodwork here. Look at that. Magnificent gate. No nails, of course. Not originally. A few in there now, I expect, but what nails there were not metal at all, as you can see. There they are. They're made of wood. And they just hold the thing in place. Look at that. I don't know if we can read that. Eight of I can't really read it, unfortunately. Not got the right light or glasses on to focus on it. But you know, hopefully when I get back and I can still this, I'll have a closer look. Magnificent. And I'm standing opposite this lovely old cottage. Rural life. See? Places you didn't know you didn't know. Just had to come and take this rather different view. And there's the church tower. We're right at the Robertsbridge end of the village now. And I'm just standing or walking alongside the village hall, and compared to the church, it's quite a recent building, 1928. Here it is, Mountfield Village Hall. Now, what I find surprising is that Mountfield, as a village, is not very big, and it's quite well spread out. And yet, even here we are in 2022, it can still support a village hall with activities, and by the looks of it, well maintained. And I suppose this is an aspect of village life that still continues. The village hall is central to the community. It's a place where people can meet, get to know each other. How much of the community is still genuinely local and still genuinely rural is anybody's guess. Unfortunately, places like this, wherever you go in the country, are desirable for commuting and retirement. Houses have been snapped up by people who are not locals, who really have no interest in local things. That is, until they get here. And then, to be fair, a lot of them will get involved, but then so often you find it's only because they want to take it over, and they turn the village into what they want it to be rather than what it was and what it should be. And the poor local people, they move away, the children, and that there's no way they're going to be able to afford to live here and work here. And so village life it's not traditional Sussex anymore. In many ways that's true. And I suppose that's how history evolves, isn't it? Things change, times move on, the dynamic of the place changes. Excuse me. The only thing that seems to remain the same is the stillness of the early morning as the sun comes up, and the bird song. But sadly there's probably less of that as time is going on. And you wonder what the next evolutionary change of a village is going to be. But hopefully historians of the future will look on films such as the one that I make, and they'll be able to see history in the past where we're filming history in the now as far as we're concerned. But I do think even my humble efforts will hopefully in the future make a valuable contribution to studies of the past and how things were. You never know. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Plus it gets me out in the mornings. Now, Mountfield has a variety of buildings, both old and new. And as I said, it's a pretty spread out place. Nearby there are the gypsum mines, which have been here for many, many years. One does wonder whether some of the houses and cottages here were built as mine workers' accommodation. But that's pure conjecture on my part. There is this other little road that comes along here and ends up with some rather older cottages, and this is the one I've come to see, the bakery. Probably dating back 16th, late 16th, early 17th century maybe. And looking at the picture, the roof would suggest that it was probably thatched at one time. And now of course it's a private dwelling, so I don't hang around too long because I try and respect people's privacy. But yes, interesting. In the middle of nowhere, the bakery. And now we move on. Looking down the road there to the level crossing. The one thing that surprised me is that Mountfield Halt Station wasn't built beside that level crossing, because that would have put it in Mountfield. Why they had to build the station so far away, I don't know. No wonder it never got hardly used. But anyway, I was talking about British gypsum, and the gypsum mines have been here for many, many years. They have their own sidings where a lot of their stuff goes out by rail, but a lot more was going out by road, and of course the roads around here are just not capable of taking these loads. So in order to facilitate bringing in large juggernauts, British Gypsum literally carved this road through the forest here, bringing their juggernauts from the A2100 along this network of private roads and off into the distance over there. And I often wonder, before this road was built, how the buses got here. because they used to have, I mean, Maidstone District used to run buses for the gypsum mines. I can only assume that they didn't come up here because the road just couldn't take it. They must have gone into Mountfield and dropped them off at the bottom of the hill there. That's the only thing I can think of. And then you have this row of houses up the hill, and I look at them and I think, were they mine workers' cottages? Were they built for the mine workers? They're not ancient cottages by any means. Probably not even 100 years old, I wouldn't have thought. Or are they council houses? Interesting. But anyway, that concludes my visit to Mountfield. And as I pan round here, you've got lots of houses all hidden in the forest. And maybe that's how it should be. One of the things about filming places you didn't know is that often you come across, I mean, I obviously plan where I'm going to go, but on the way you come across things that you didn't know were going to find. And I've just, coming at another field, I found this most unusual building. I've no idea what it was. It has kind of almost Gothic style windows, and those two cottages attached to it. Was it an old water tower at one time? I suppose that's a possibility. Oh, what's that up there? An aircraft up there, but I couldn't find it. And then behind it, there's this rather unusual building, and I'm going to try and film through the branches, because it has a rather unusual clock tower. You see that? And yet it's a modern building. But I I would almost certainly say that was possibly a water tower, and you'd have the water workers' cottages next to it. But in the middle of nowhere, a place I didn't know. Now this surprised me, but it's actually what they call a shooting tower for the Ashburnham estate. I had no idea the Ashburnham estate was so large, but here it is. I think it was built somewhere around 1868, 1870ish. As I say, you shooting deer from out the top window. I don't know really what it entailed, to be honest. I've not been able to find that out, but yes, shooting tower for the Ashburnham estate. And nowadays it is available for hire, so if you find the people letting it, you can go and stay there. What about that then?